my dearest, you're watching the Wits and Bustle show. My name is Katya Komarova, and today I am attending a Women's Voice and Visibility Summit.
Sometimes I'm like, why is the dish still in the sink? And they're like, well, I don't know. I'm like,
our entire team was paid $2 million for winning the World Cup. The men's German team that won the Men's World Cup the year before made $35 million. Did you have any idea how big the pay gap was?
Yeah. Do you know who she is? Well, I don't know anything about football or soccer, as they call it in the United States, but I know tons of stuff about Abby. She scored more goals than any other woman in history. She's extremely motivating. She tells you that wherever you are, on the bench or in the center of the field, if you're winning or losing, you can still lead. As long as you have the confidence inside you and the power, the internal power to change things. Abby is an inspiration to me, and since this is my show, my channel, and I do things however I want, I am putting her full speech in this video, unfiltered, uncut, for your enjoyment and inspiration.
I should take a video of that so when I go home tonight and I feed my children, they will know that I am important. This happened in 2018. I don't know if you've seen the speech. This isn't just about me, and this isn't just about soccer. It took months for me to prepare and write this speech. And if you can give yourself the gift of space and time to think about your life in a macro way, and then to uncover the details in a micro way, I think that it will shed serious light for you of what you want to do, what you haven't done, and where you can go.
You are watching the Wits and Bustle show. My name is Katya Komarova. We talk about all things at the intersection of business, public relations, and social trends. Stay tuned.
Right. When I originally retired, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the ESPYs. Okay, good. I'm in the right room here. I speak to a lot of people. That's what I do for a living now. Not everyone knows. So I'm like, it's the Oscars, but for sports. Okay? So they called and they wanted to give me what's called the Icon Award. I didn't know at the time that this was even a thing. I'd watched the ESPYs, I'd been to the ESPYs, I'd never seen somebody gotten the Icon Award. And they wanted me to receive this award next to these two other guys. Do you guys know them? And obviously, that's a joke. Obviously, you know them. In the last week and a half, it has been really shocking and horrible. And I know that Kobe would be okay with me using this photo, just so you know. He was a friend of mine and a total ambassador for women in sports, and we really, truly did lose one of our male champions. Obviously, not to diminish the other people that lost their lives in that flight, but I remember being on this stage with these guys, and I feel like that moment when you're on stage, I had some lines, so I was a little nervous. I was on national television. And I nailed my lines. You know I did. I nailed it. and the lights turned off and the camera turned off and the three of us turned to walk off stage. Now, on that stage, I felt extreme gratitude. Extreme gratitude. Often the only emotion women are allowed. Often the only emotion women are allowed to have. And when I turned to walk off that stage, something else totally different happened to me. You know, I felt like, oh wow, we women, we finally made it. Look at us. And then I turned to walk off stage, and I started to get a complete different feel. I started to think, what the hell just happened? I just had a whole career. And these guys, right, their biggest concern was where they were going to invest their hundreds of millions of dollars that they earned. And mine was how I was going to pay my mortgage now. This is a real, true story. So I was supposed to spend that night going to all the parties and wining and dining with all of the celebrities, but I went straight to my hotel room because, like all women, when we feel angry, when we feel upset, we try to figure out how I created the problem first. So I spent the night in the hotel room, much like that Jerry Maguire movie, right? He's like pacing, I don't know what's happened. How did I just do this? I'm like a leader, I'm like a champion for women and the LGBTQ world. Like, how the hell did this happen? If this happened to me, I thought, oh, this is happening to every woman. And all along, and throughout my whole career, I knew that I was getting less than my male counterparts. But I accepted it because this belief, this idea that gratitude was the only thing that I was allowed to express. Like everything was given to me rather than I earned it. Those are very different things. Words matter. My wife is an author. She is imploring me to be mindful of what I say and mindful of what I think, and words do matter. Being given something and having earned something are two separate things. And women of the world walk around feeling like everything needs to be or has been given to you, rather than you've worked your ass off and earned it.
You are watching the Wits and Bustle Show. My name is Katya Komarova. We talk about all things at the intersection of business, public relations, and social trends. Stay tuned.
They would not share this experience with me. And number two, that I would do everything that I could to level the playing field for women everywhere, because like I said, if this is happening to me, this is happening to every single woman in every single industry, in every single city and state and country of the world. Enough is enough, I said. And so that's what I've been doing ever since, trying to champion women everywhere I go. So, not to get all class-like, but I'm going to take you to school here. This is something that I learned after I retired, and this has actually been one of the most important things for me in terms of what does success mean. Because I was always chasing that next medal, that next championship. And that was my definition. It was very black and white. Winning was the goal, full stop. But then I walked away from soccer and it got a little bit confusing what winning meant and what success meant. We have to figure out what success means for each and every one of us. Does it mean you got out of bed? For some people it does. Does it mean you got up and you got your kids out of the house and they looked halfway decent? Does it mean you did everything in your power to not pick up that drink? Every single one of us has a different life, different experience. And because of that, this defining success is going to be different for all of us. But one of the things I realized is because I had so many opportunities and I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do, I took what's called a work-life program, a life-work program that allowed me to figure out what it was that I was good at, what it was that I wanted to do, and then figure out how to marry that together. So I figured out that for whatever reason, I am obsessed with corporate culture. I don't know why, actually. I never figured that part out. But I think a lot of it is because it's so similar to sports. You've got, especially for women in sport, you're in a male-dominated world. You're in a system and an institution that was built by men, for men, and here you are trying to figure out what's going on, how to manage the situation, how to find get your foot in the door, how to understand what the seat count is around that table. And with this triangle of success, I didn't realize there were so many things that I had as an opportunity, but because they didn't fall into my triangle, they're an immediate no. If it is not a goal or part of the plan or part of an activity that's going to get you to your purpose, then it is a no. In the national team world, we say it's either a hell yes or it's a no. And this is very similar. So you can take this with you if you want. You can talk to me after and we can dig more into it, but this thing has truly helped me organize my life and make me understand what it is that I want and keep me in line and heading towards my purpose. How do you define your success? I think that writing your own commencement speech is going to be really important for you. Give yourself the gift of that. Figure out, what does success mean? How do you define your own success? So when I was 16 years old, I don't know if you guys know about the national team programs, but I had the unique opportunity to go to Chula Vista, California, to play soccer for the U16 national team. Now, our youth programs, and now they're all sorts of ages, and I don't really remember all of them, but 16 and 18 and then 23 and 21, the youth national team programs are instilled and put in place to prepare and train young female soccer players for the full senior team. So I found myself at the Olympic training grounds in Chula Vista, and all of us were 16 years old. I was just excited about the cool new Nike gear and the amazing food. Wow, they have the best food there. And I was nervous to play, but I was just there to have fun. And we got this really cool opportunity. Mind you, this is in 1996, and it was right before the Atlanta Olympics. The first Olympics that women's soccer was allowed to be a part of the Olympic Games. So our women's national team had what they called their first residency program to prepare for the Olympic 96 Atlanta Games. So they got their own locker room that was dedicated to them for those 5 or 6 months. That's basically what they got. And we, as a U16 team, had this really cool opportunity to go and tour their locker room. I know that sounds so lame, maybe, but nothing could have been more cool to me, to a 16-year-old, to be in the same environment and space that our women's national team got ready and prepped and to go out to train every day. So I went in, and it's like every other locker room. It smells a little bad. It's a little bit funky and messy. And I was that 16-year-old kid that went straight up to Mia Hamm's locker, and I grabbed her cleats and I started rubbing them on my legs. It worked. And you might think that it would be the picture of me standing in front of Mia's locker, or seeing Julie Foudy's locker would be the thing that I walked away from that experience having felt just amazed by. But it wasn't. It was actually this little 5 by, 8. What size of those pictures used to be? Remember we printed the pictures out? 4 by 6. 4 by 6. There's a little picture, and they taped it up next to the door as every woman would look at and see before they would head out to the pitch every day. And you might think it was of their last win or something that they want to be inspired by, and it was, but just in a different way. It was of the 1995 Norwegian women's national soccer team, obnoxiously, in my opinion, celebrating the previous year's win over the United States to knock the United States out of the 95 World Cup. They were doing this really annoying dance after, and it was this picture, and at 16, first of all, I had never seen a team want to showcase the most recent failure of their existence. At 16, we talked about it as a team, what does that mean? Why do they want to remember that? And we talked about the culture, and at the time, my U16 national team coach, her name was April Heinrichs, and we talked about what losing meant to our women's national team. And what I found out was what losing meant to our women's national team was totally different than what losing means to the rest of the world. What losing means and what failure means is that is actually an opportunity. It means, yeah, we got some information that we need to figure something out. Something went wrong, we need to figure this out. It's not something to be scared of. You know, I think about the time and the amount of mistakes that I made on the soccer field. And we're talking about probably millions of mistakes. And what do people think of when they see me? They're like, wow, you're an amazing goal scorer. I'm like, I know. But I was also probably even better at missing chances in practice. I was also better at maybe not making every sprint. I was also better, so it's just a mindset. And so I learned at 16 years old, oh, that's what they do here. And that's something that can be taught. You're not just born just totally courageous and able to get up every time that you fall down. You have to learn that. And I learned that this trip. I was 16 years old. I was like, oh, okay, that's what they do. So over the next couple of years, I started to put that into my life. I would come home from school and I would hand my mom and dad a test that I got a C on, and I would just slide it across the table and be like, I'm going to make this a B next time. I'm going to learn from this failure. Okay? So a couple years after this, and the thing that is really true, and in all seriousness, when is the last time that you failed? Thank you for being honest. Somebody just said yesterday. I failed this morning, by the way. I am training for a marathon, and I missed my goal time for these 800s that I was running this morning, and I missed it by 2 seconds. I'm still pissed. I'm pissed. I'm so pissed. I can't believe I just told you guys all that. I guess for the sake of being honest, thank you. But when is the last time you had a real failure? Not what I just said, like a failure that brought you to your knees. And then how did you mentally get out of it? Sometimes we fake it till we make it. But did you and could you find access to a deeper strength inside of you? You don't need to get that. Because we all have more power inside of us, especially us women. No offense, guys. But we haven't been given enough space to unleash our full power. Yeah. We just haven't. So there is power. It's just been inside of us, hibernating. When is the last time you failed? Do you have the access to think about that time? Do you have the mindset to think about what you could have done different? And I bet you, your mentality around that failure, if you switch making failure into your fuel, that failure is no longer a failure. It's the best thing that ever happened to you. So I know that our women's national team in 2019 came home as champions. This is a story from the 2015 team that I was on, and we also won. So I'm going to give you a little tutorial about how World Cups kind of go in terms of the structure. So you have group stage games, and then you have knockout round games. And those group stage games means that everybody who qualifies to play the World Cup gets to play at least 3 games. So the group that we were in had 4 teams, and we had 3 games. Now, as the tournament goes on, you play in what are called knockout round games, and it's kind of sounds what it sounds like. If you win, you continue on in the tournament. If you lose, you go home. Those games, however, if they end up in regulation time, that means at the end of the game, for us Americans who don't know much about football, soccer, if it ends in regulation 0-0 or a tie, then you go into extra time or overtime. And what that would mean is at 35 years old, any of those knockout round games, if they went into extra time, would mean that I would have had to, if I started, play 120-minute games, which was not happening at 35, okay? So our coaching staff called me in, we sat down and we had a conversation about how the rest of the tournament was gonna go. And what was decided in that room was that my role as a game changer, as a leader, as a captain, was going to be best coming off the bench. Now that's a fancy way of saying that I got my ass benched. Okay? And it's true. The conversations were real and they were hard, and I asked tough questions, and I heard tough answers. And Jill and I had a good enough relationship and a trust in each other that I walked out of that meeting room, hotel room, and I just thought, okay, I'm going to go back to my hotel room and I'm going to figure this out in there. Evidently in my life, everything happens in a hotel room. And let me tell you something. Hearing that news that I was getting benched was the worst news I'd ever heard. I had this fear of embarrassment. I had this shame for some reason. Maybe I didn't work hard enough for the previous year. Because as an athlete, these World Cups, they're not just those 2-3 weeks. You're prepping for this World Cup for the entire year. Your focus is singular. And the way that I prepared for previous World Championships was, I'm going to be on the field and I'm going to be scoring goals. That's my job, that's my role. But it was clear that at 35, there's no chance that I was going to be able to do that. And in order for us to secure maybe a lead or to maybe need to come back at the end of the game, me coming off the bench at the end of the game was how I was going to support my team the best. And I had a choice. I had a choice to be a good teammate or a bad teammate. I have a healthy ego. I'm not scared to admit that. It's part of what made me so good as an athlete. But I also need everybody in this room to understand that when you are put in a position where life benches you, because all of us have, you have a choice how you respond. And I think that we kind of know how the story is going to end. I responded right. Well, I was a good teammate. I was actually so good that Jill, our coach, she moved me to the furthest end of the bench because I was like so loud and obnoxious. I was like, let's go. But here's the thing. I had spent my whole career as a starter on the field. And what would I tell those bench players? That they mattered, that we needed them, that their support from the bench was so important, because as an athlete, yeah, the fans and stuff, it's awesome, but the respect of my teammates is more important. And so I had to transition in the middle of a tournament. I had to flip the role that I had been given my whole career and the mindset. And I just took that on as a challenge. Okay, I'm going to become the best bench player. Like I said, I'm competitive in the world. And I truly believe that it helped. Not just because we won, but looking back and been given this opportunity to write this commencement speech, I realized that everything that I had yet to learn about leadership was actually sitting right there on that bench. It is okay for life to bench you. It is not okay for you to miss your opportunity to lead from wherever you are. If you call yourself a leader on the field, you better call yourself a leader on the bench. Because you're either a leader everywhere or you're not a leader at all. And yes, all of that is cliche and sweet and awesome, but it's really true. Because in the end, what I know from the depths of my being, I scored a lot of goals. In fact, Christine Sinclair from the Canadian Women's National Team just overtook my world record last week. And here's the thing, I know that you were going to do that. Really, I did. I've done a few speeches since, and that's the response. But a success for Christine is a success for me. We as women, and I know there's a national component here, Canada and the US, I get it. But I want to flip this idea that we need to be competing against each other to get ahead. She is the world record holder. And I want to honor that. Because when I was up on top and I was the world record holder, that was something that I was really proud of. And so I want her to feel that full pride. And I also want to work and showcase to all and other women that we can actually be for each other. So this is, yeah. In every soccer game, actually I'm just going to go to this slide. If you're not a leader on the bench, oh yeah, I kind of said that. How we lead from the bench. In every soccer game, there's a moment when a soccer goal gets scored, okay? And I know that because I did it better than most. But what's interesting about it is that I can tell everything that I need to know about a team by the way they celebrate. Now, you might say, because, being a goal scorer, I know that the TV and the camera came straight to me. And I was actually watching YouTube's. It was we go from scoring soccer goals in my family to puppy videos, YouTube's. This is what we do every day. All the soccer goals. And early days, when I first got into our family environment, they would watch soccer goals that I scored. That is no longer happens. They don't care how many goals I scored. That's Alex Morgan and Megan Rapinoe. But early days, my youngest Anna, she's like, Abby, who are you pointing to? And I'm like, that's interesting. This is a good question. I'm like, well, baby, every single game that I've ever scored, any single goal in my whole career, I did it with the help of a teammate. And you might be thinking, because you might know something about soccer, well, what about penalty kicks? And the amount of hours that goalkeepers throughout my whole career had to stay after practice, usually late on their own time, to stand in goal and take penalty shot after penalty shot after penalty shot to get me proficient at penalty shots, that was my teammate assisting me, even though it might not have looked like it on the field at the time. But it's true, every single goal that I scored was not done without the help of a teammate. And when I score, I want to make sure that teammate knows I value them and I appreciate them, and if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have been able to score that goal. And I think that this is what we've all been taught. We've been taught from the time that we were born that more for her means less for me. I mean, all the statistics prove it. Fewer women CEOs, how many women get a seat at the table? Maybe 2 out of 10 chairs. So it's just nature having taken its course that forces us into fighting against each other. Rather than somebody at an amazing summit standing in front of you telling you there are 10 bloody seats at the table. We deserve 5. I think that we have gotten so paralyzed and numbed to the reality of the world. this is what I learned. Like, I'm obsessed with corporate culture because I actually think that corporate culture decides what we experience with the products that go out in the world and the slogans and the campaigns and everything that we read and consume is being decided by somebody that we don't know or never met. And being decided by tables that are not just diverse or equal. And because of that, then the products and everything and the whole culture is skewed and biased against me, against somebody like you, against somebody that I know you know. I get fired up, sorry. So a couple years after I retired, I played soccer for 30 years, running around a damn field all the time, and played on the women's national team. I won some medals, did some really cool stuff. So I thought that my body built up enough goodwill that I would never have to work out again. I really did believe that. I really wanted to believe that. And 2 years after I retired, mirrors were telling me different. And more importantly than mirrors, my self-esteem was telling me different. So I started to run. Anybody else in here hate running as much as me? Thank you so much. I feel better knowing how many of you also hate it. And interestingly enough, one of my kids' teachers, she's a PE teacher and also their cross-country coach, she's like one of those always happy, positive people. And like whenever I'm around her, she's always like bouncing around. She's like, are you gonna sign up for a 5K or come on, like let's get you in a 5K or a 10K. And I'm like, I hate running, like whatever, like stay away from me. So I started to, and by the way, I'm like now 2 years away from my retirement, I'm like really slow. And I start running and, I feel pissed because it shouldn't be so hard. Okay? Like truly, I feel like, why can't this be a little bit easier? And every day I would come home and I would complain to Glennon and I'm like, babe, I don't understand. Like I'm an Olympian, I have proof that I am good at this stuff. It is in my underwear drawer. That is where I keep my gold medals, okay? And she's like, babe, I know, you don't have to show me the gold medals every day. Like, you can keep them away. And I'm like, I just don't understand why it's so hard. And she said, look, you don't have your people around you. You spent your whole life. Like, let's take the national team career. Like, every single time you went to the soccer field, you spent your time with your people, with your team, with your pack. And I was like, this is very interesting. Suffering shared is better. She said exactly. And it's true. Like, think about it. Think about any time in your life where you've had to endure something. And if it was done in relation to, in proximity to other people, it was just a little bit better knowing somebody else was experiencing this with you. You know what else is the same as that? Joy. I spent what felt like a lifetime on the road representing this country. I'm fiercely proud of the time that I spent representing this country. And yes, I did amazing things on a world, international level. And winning medals and championships was amazing. But it wasn't the thing that kept me coming back. It was the people. People often ask me what it was like to get a gold medal wrapped around my neck. And here is the crazy in an Olympian. You get a gold medal wrapped around your neck, and then you step off the podium, and you think, well, I want to do that again. And then you start walking up that mountain all over again. And so my point is, when you walk, and when I got to go back in the locker room and see all of the time that we spent preparing for this moment and it actually happening, like that was what was important. And sitting around the table in China, having been there for 2 weeks, and this is back in the day where we needed calling cards, like this is before Skype. And you just talked. You talked about stuff. You expressed yourself. We had people who believed in many different things, not just political affiliations, but religious beliefs. We had people that came from different parts of the country, from a totally different background than me. And that was essential to the person that I've become. Because I believe deeply that we all can actually get off of the polarizations that our country has turned us into and try to find someplace in the middle, because I think that that's where we kind of all live. Whether we want to believe it or not, but nowadays, if you believe in this one thing, then that puts you only all the way over in that camp on the edge of the world. And then if you say that you believe in this other thing, then it puts you all the way over here. I just don't think that that's true. I think that it's the hype. And I've seen it happen. I've seen it literally happen and experienced it with my teams. And by the way, people that are in my Wolfpack, they're not like always the people that I love to be around. Not my best friends in the world. But you're damn sure that I respected them because they made me better. You know, I've been obsessed with breaking through. I've been obsessed with finding my pack. I've been obsessed with trying to flip the fairy tale that was taught to me as a kid. The bullshit fairy tales. You know, Little Red Riding Hood goes off into the woods. It's the reason why I named this book Wolfpack. It's because if I could go back and tell my younger self one thing, it would be, Abby, you were never Little Red Riding Hood. You were always the wolf. Thank you guys for laughing at my jokes.
You are watching the Wits and Bustle show. My name is Katya Komarova. We talk about all things at the intersection of business, public relations, and social trends. Stay tuned.